like she was in the room. Even though she died 13 years ago, her ashes were being kept in an urn that hung on the mantel in the den. I remember the first time I saw it. I shouldn't be able to remember that long ago, but it feels like yesterday. I couldn't have been more than 5 at the time, in my little sky blue dress, with my little pink hairband. Most of the people had left by then. For some reason, I was alone in that room, staring up at it, that urn. I could feel it looking at me. I shouldn't be able to remember this, but I do. I remember screaming. My father ran into the room and asked me what happened. I was crying, bawling my eyes out with fear. He picked me up and brought me into the kitchen. That was the last time I was ever in her house. And now they want me to go back to the house, her house, my grandmother. I can't remember what she looks like. I can't remember anything about her. My father told me stories about how much she liked me, how I was the only one in the family she felt a connection with, how she could be a cold, bitter, secluded woman, yet she felt a kinship with me. I don't remember that. I don't remember anything about her, other than that urn, her ashes. She left me the house in her will, this immaculate, almost mythic house. She left me this for reasons I will never understand beyond this supposed kinship she felt between us. I recall nothing about this house beyond that one day when I was 5, when everyone gathered there for the wake and I was left alone for a moment. A traumatic moment that stretched time. It stood atop a hill on the edge of town. Most residents could see it from their own homes. Our town was so flat and repetitive. Sometimes you wouldn't know if you were lost or right on time. Yet her house seemed to be watching over everything. It stood out. The architecture was some madman. That's what my father told me. Every fiber of that house was so carefully constructed. My father can remember how he and his siblings would be scolded constantly for making a mess. Through his own eyes, he says they never did. They obeyed. He told me that his mother treated her home better than her children. If he hated the house so much, why would he want it? I asked him this. Not the house, the money from selling the house. That's what we want. It's what we deserve for putting up with her. I'd like to be discussing college at the dining table tonight. Instead, we are discussing the house. How I am meant to meet with this realtor tomorrow to go over the finer details. I know what this money could mean to me. I am not naive. I have seen my father start his life over multiple times, trying to make ends meet. I am sympathetic to his plight, yet I am also deeply afraid to repeat his mistakes, to let my moral compass be dictated by money which has no currency to me. I have seen and heard too many stories about how it corrupts the soul. My father grows frustrated by me. His wife, my stepmother, even more so. They want me to accept her gift, now that I am turning 18. Give back to the family that has supported me all these years. Tempting as it may be, quibble with what they may deem as support, I am more tempted to get all of this over with. I'll get this house into my name just to get it done with. Apparently, this caused immense bickering amongst the remaining family members who wanted a piece of her wealth. I didn't want it. I certainly didn't ask for it. But my father and stepmother have made it abundantly clear that I will be acquiring the house on my 18th birthday. I had no desire to go back there. I was ready to go live my life, my own life, away from my family who seemed more interested in my newfound bank account than who I was or what I really wanted. Perhaps my father sees this as a safety net. Always has. Scraping by until his daughter turns 18 and then he can live the good life. The life he feels as though he should have always lived. Another thought that makes me quiver. I know his dreams revolve around the hard work of others, caretaking to his needs. He will not seek to give back, he will seek to get out, away from this town, as far as his new wealth will take him. There's a stipulation. My father tells me this over dessert. I should have known there was a catch. Desserts are a delicacy in our home, our tiny home. The cherries on our sundaes are never sweet, they are bitter. He tells me this stipulation as I take my first bite into the vanilla. Your grandmother wants you to spend a weekend in the house, alone. She assumes you would want to sell it, so she was hoping you may have a change of heart and opt to keep the house instead after spending time there. No big deal, right? I was really looking forward to my ice cream, and now it tastes like chalk. I take a deep breath. Can I sell it after the weekend? My question is answered quicker than any I have ever asked before, by both my father and his wife. They both say yes with such a jolt, I wonder if they had been shocked by many bolts of lightning. They have never been nicer to me. The months leading up to my 18th birthday have been the best time under our shared roof I can ever remember. Not that there is much competition. I imagine that the slideshow of our time together would be quite droll. Of course you can sell it, sweetheart. It's just a formality. My ice cream is nearly halfway done when I ask a follow-up question. How would she know if I actually stayed there? This question seems to have eluded both my father and his wife. They look perplexed. I don't get an answer this time, I get a question. Pardon? I explain that my grandmother would not know if I actually stayed there, 'cause she's dead. Is someone going to be checking in on me to make sure I don't leave? Am I being held captive? My father lights up a bit, shaking his head aggressively, wanting to seem as impressed with me as he can possibly be. Well, that is a great question, sweetheart. Be sure to ask that of the realtor tomorrow. My stepmother asks if I want more ice cream. I wish I could say yes, but for obvious reasons, I would prefer solitude at the moment. I go to bed knowing that tomorrow I will have to go back. To that house. Her house. It hadn't changed. I felt as if her funeral was yesterday, standing in her driveway, staring up at the house. No matter where you stood in our town, even in her driveway, you could feel her house looking down at you. A watchful eye, as my father once described it. The realtor had a real swagger to her. Candace was the name, Candy for short. She had this vivacious red hair. It had to be artificial. Everything about her felt plucked off an assembly line. Her skin looked burnt, like the last piece of bacon, as if she had been left out in the sun too long, soaking in olive oil. Her polka-dot turquoise dress was a little too high. Her sunglasses were a little too round, teeth a little too white, lipstick too pink. She glittered. When we shook hands, I expected to look down and see my hand covered in charcoal. Isn't it a beaut? Candy was beaming, or glittering to be more accurate. Amazing how it stayed so pristine. Your grandmother was a woman of fine taste. Fine taste. Sometimes she would speak and certain words would just pop out of her mouth like a firecracker, lighting up the air in front of her feet. I had my team come here to spruce it up for you. They didn't have to lift a finger. Not one finger. Isn't that something? I could feel the weight of my legs expanding as we got towards the front door. Thankfully, I had a reason to delay the inevitable, which was to walk inside. I had my question ready. How will she know if I stay here? Come again, dear? My grandmother stipulated that I needed to stay here for the whole weekend. How would she know if I stayed or just left? Candy was confused. The wrinkles in her skin seemed to overlap, inventing new creases. She looked beyond me as if the question was some sort of hallucinogenic. Well, I suppose you could just go. I nodded, confident. Thank God, I thought. I could feel the cold air hitting me 5 feet out from the doorway. Having to not step foot inside was warming me up. And then Candy spoke again. But can you imagine being your grandmother? You've only asked one thing of your granddaughter, whom you've given this big, beautiful house to, and then when you look down from the clouds to see her, you find out she has disobeyed your only wish. I'm not your grandmother, sweetheart. If that was me, I'd be heartbroken. Besides, it really is a heavenly home. And there it is, in spades. The reason this mannequin has been hired by my grandmother. To sell me on a feeling of guilt. For someone I don't remember and therefore do not know. But she had a point. Would I feel better if I did the one thing she asked of me? Yeah, I would. All right, I told her. Give me the tour. The purple pond. My grandmother had created her own pond in the backyard, and as soon as I saw it, the memories started to trickle in, like tiny little raindrops flowing down the gutter onto the ground. The purple pond. Why did I call it that? Candy was ecstatic to show me around. The lush hills, the greenery, the way the sun emerges over the mountain in the morning. You could spend all day just walking around. That's what Candy said. Nothing was ringing a bell, except the pond. I could remember that. I don't know why. Shall we head inside? I had two options. Head inside, or stay outside and ask questions. Prolong the inevitable. Show me the bedroom, Candy. The bedroom was bigger than my father's house. My father's house was not even a house. The term is villa. Either way, the room surpassed that by every metric. My grandmother's bed was nearly the width of my bedroom. There were fabrics and minerals of such high caliber that I couldn't even pronounce the country of their origins. I could try and describe the house, but I wouldn't know how to paint the appropriate picture. It was like discovering a new color. How would you explain it to someone? Mixtures of familiars, but you wouldn't really know. You'd have to see it for yourself. The size, the scope, the pristine. Candy wasn't kidding about the pristine. You couldn't find a speck of dust anywhere. And there was a lot of ground for dust to invade. Yet it remained spotless. All the walls on the first floor were glass. Candy insisted that my grandmother had installed a very ahead-of-its-time security system. In case the idea of having glass walls on the first floor come across as inviting to the sadistic eye. Who is more dangerous, the peeping Tom or the one who invites their glance? Has anyone tried to break in since she died? Candy tensed up a bit. This was a first. The answer must have been yes. Why else would she stiffen up so strongly at the question? She explained. As a matter of fact, one person did. She stopped, as if she had answered the question, as opposed to doing what she did. which was to only magnify my interest in the original unanswered question. "And?" I said.
Well, it's rather upsetting, actually. Maybe not the best conversation to be had on such a bright, sunny day. Would you like to see the rest of the house?
"I'd like to hear the rest of the story, Candy." I got comfy on the edge of my grandmother's bed, waiting for Candy to keep speaking. She unclogged her throat and then spoke.
It must have been about 8 or 9 years ago, not too long after your grandmother had passed. This man had gotten about as far as the Purple Pond, and, well, when they found his body, or what was left of his body, he
What, Candy?
he had no head.
My jaw hit my knee. There had to be more to the story. I pestered until she persisted.
That's what makes the whole thing so obtuse, sweetie. The story sorta ends there. Without a head, the police couldn't identify him. Nobody knows who he was or what he wanted. But on the bright side, nobody ever tried to break in after that. Shall we see the kitchen?
I knew it was around the corner. The only place left to go was the den, with the urn, prominently displayed on that mantel. We had seen every square inch of the house. I had been dreading this moment all day, all week, all life. I told myself that it was nothing to be scared of. People have a tendency to build up things in their mind, especially things from their childhood. There's a snowball effect to trauma that can make it grow in size and stature while traveling from the past. Yet, as soon as I saw it, I was 5 years old again. Shrinking by the second, it seemed to tower over me. Surreal, as if you had copy and pasted the moment from that original space and time to the one facing me now. The urn was black steel. Everything in the room was white marble. I could feel the weight of her from 10 feet away. Money started to become obsolete. One weekend would feel like 7 centuries. I turned towards Candy, ready to express my predicament with spending another second in this house of mirrors. But she was gone. I began walking towards the front door when I saw a spark out of the corner of my eye. Through the large living room window, I could see Candy lighting a cigarette. Candy's hands were shaking. I stepped outside and cupped my hands over her parliament so she could get it lit. She nodded as her head continued to bobble. "Are you okay, Candy?"
Yes, I'm fine, sweetheart. Just a little stomach bug. Nothing some fresh air can't cure.
She was clearly lying. Her salesmanship seemed to hit a dead end once the urn showed up. I can't blame her. Moral compasses were realigning for everyone at the moment. Did you know my grandmother?
Oh, yes, she was a peach, sharp as a tack. Really such a sophisticated woman. So sophisticated.
I told Candy I didn't remember her at all, even though everyone keeps telling me that she felt this real bond with me. I asked Candy if she thought that was odd.
Oh, no. Not at all, sweetheart. I think it's lovely. Grandparents are so wise. I was really close with my own. It's a shame we don't treat the elderly better in this country, seeing how much they've done for us. Your grandmother was a beacon of hope.
I could see sweat dripping next to both ears, 2 skinny streams. It was her hair coloring. The top of her head looked like it was melting. She was walking away towards her car while twisting the lid on her obligation to make me feel at home.
Well, do feel free to call the office with any questions or concerns. I think you will have a lovely time here. Just lovely. And I will be back Monday morning to finalize the transfer.
She got into the front seat and clicked it shut. I stood by outside of her window. My hand began to rise, slowly forming a wave, until she rolled her window down.
Oh, sweetie, I forgot to tell you about the last stipulation.
I saw red, and it wasn't Candy's dye job liquefying from terror. It was my own rage that she was going to drop the last stipulation on me as she was leaving. This felt unjust, and my previously benevolent hand, which had been forming a wave, was now balling up into a fist. "Last stipulation?" I said, gritting through my teeth.
Yes, your grandmother asked that you spread her ashes into the garden.
My foot hurt. I had kicked Candy's rear bumper as she drove off. Under normal circumstances, she or someone else who had just had their bumper kicked in might stop the car for a myriad of reasons. Candy did not stop her car, nor did she even look back at me. All she did was wave me in the literal dust with an added stipulation that was precisely the last thing I would ever want to do during the next 48 hours. Pick up the urn of my grandmother's ashes and then spread them into the air. The air that I and other people might breathe. I was furious and had zero outlet to expel my rage. It was getting dark. Her lit-up house felt more ominous than the gray clouds rolling in. I thought of leaving right then and there, but I didn't. A small part of me couldn't help wondering why she so desperately did not want her house sold. I took a breath and went inside, closing the silent sliding door behind me. She had a bar, a real bar, loaded with options. Maybe this wouldn't be so bad. It was about to be my 18th birthday, after all. A girl has to live a little. Grams would appreciate that. I poured myself scotch. God damn, that was good. The way the light brown glistened as I swished it back and forth in her cocktail glass. Perhaps a good bender was in order. It would certainly help the time fly. What else was I going to do? There was no TV. Not that I had a TV. We were still the only house on the block that didn't have one. I brought my journal. I thought maybe I could use the time to get some writing done. Until I saw that scotch, swimming towards me. Hemingway would have put his pen down for a 50-year-old bottle of Glenfiddich. She also had music. Some damn fine music.
The devil in the eye told me I could fly, whispered in my ear promises far and dear. I took his hand and soared to skies I've never explored, gliding higher and higher with the devil as my guide. Oh, I'm a daring flyer with the wind on my side. The world is down below where I used to feel so slow. Now freedom's in my grasp. No need for the past. I'm dancing on the breeze.
Talk about lifting spirits. I had to give her this. She knew how to decorate. Her possessions would make worldly people appear local. It stretched beyond continents. The artwork strung along the walls could build bridges between oceans. How could one person cover so much ground? More importantly, how did I know the words to this song? The record scratched. This is what she wants. She wants me to fall in love with her home so I can stay here. Don't fall into that trap. Don't let her seduce you. Put down the glass. Turn off the record. If I keep the house, it means I remain stuck. which is the last place I want to be. I came here to get away from here. Prove to myself I am not my father, or my father's mother. First things first, toss her ashes into the dirt. Liquid courage certainly helped. Downing a world-renowned glass of scotch on an empty stomach will do that for you. I slid a purple velvet chair under the mantel, stood on my bare foot, grabbed it with both hands, and then gently stepped down onto the white marble floor. I couldn't look at it. Tucking it against my stomach was bad enough. It had a smell. I can't say it was unpleasant. I can't say exactly what it was, other than off. It smelled odd. Rather than dig into that mystery, I continued briskly walking outside towards the garden. As soon as my feet hit the lawn, a wide light turned on, illuminating the entire patch of dirt, stretching at least 20 yards. What was she planning to put here? For someone who notoriously prided herself on loving Mother Nature, she didn't seem too keen on planting. There was nothing here. It was barren, other than dirt. Lots and lots of dirt. The liquid courage seemed to wear off right when I needed it most. Turning the urn over and emptying its contents, I could see the entire town from here, all lit up. If I squinted, it kind of looked like a Christmas tree. Not that I could relate. Our Christmases were so lackluster. Kids aren't supposed to sleep in on Christmas morning. I did. As bad as it felt to be here, I was glad to not be there. My tiny town, half of which was waiting to see if they would be drafted to go fight in the war. That's what you did in my town. You waited for someone else to tell you how to spend the rest of your life. That's not living, that's waiting to die. Maybe Grimm's was onto something. If I squint even more, I can pretend to squish whole streets with just my little finger. I tipped the urn and walked along the perimeter of the dirt patch. I could see the ash slowly drifting down through the night air, as if it was taking one final waltz before going to sleep. Sprinkles of white glittered the cold ground. I thought of my first birthday cake. Chocolate with vanilla sprinkles. How old was I? Which birthday was that? Was she there? Can I see her, holding the cutting knife, smiling, singing to me as she slices ever so delicately? I'm feeling emotional in a way I could not have predicted. Maybe we did have connection. Maybe it was just stored so deep because I was afraid of what I could not have, who I could not be, which was her. Maybe my scream that day was the realization that she was in fact gone, and now I was alone. Truly alone. The only person who ever knew me was gone. Losing her was so painful that I had buried all remnants of our time together. I can feel it bubbling back to the surface. If I close my eyes real tight, I can see her. Just a glimpse. It's flickering, like a candle, but it's her. I know that now. I can see her leaning down to me as I lay in bed, and she is whispering something. The worst risk is no risk. I can touch her words as they slither down to my ear canal into my throat. For the first time in forever, I can touch our history. Her garden is sparkling. I must be drunk. I grow lightheaded. My bones feel heavy. I sat the urn down, just outside the perimeter, and walked back into the house. One night down, 2 days to go. Life can be beautiful when it's not your own. I suppose that's why people go on vacation, to get away from themselves, such simple pleasures. Forever eluding me because I was raised by the worst risk. No risk. I'm sitting up on her couch, her white silk couch that stretches beyond my means. I couldn't sleep in her bed. That felt wrong. I hoped that was not part of her plan. I still felt like a tourist on the couch. When you're poor, a couch will gain merit over time. You see it as a connection to your family and friends, an invitation to someone else's life story. It's like waking up in the middle of a movie. You suddenly exist outside of your own body. The sun shines through the tall glass doors, ending just beyond my outstretched hands. I'm wearing a nightgown. I don't remember putting this on. Glenfiddich, it'll get you every time. Or your only time. Either way, it'll get you. I open her fridge and see a world of possibilities. It's been brought to my attention that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Previous to now, I would holler back a loud grimace of good riddance. Today, I will comply. Eggs, bacon, potatoes, orange juice, coffee. Everything is here. Candy did well to sweeten the pot. A girl could get used to this. A poor girl could drop everyone she has ever cared about for this. More fragmented memories began rising to the surface. I close my eyes and try to concentrate. She is whispering again, telling me that this world was taken from us, but we shall take it back. It is us who will inherit the earth, just as Mother intended. That was clear. I heard it. Those were words from her mouth to my ear. The milk swirls into my coffee, and it is the epitome of racial harmony. The caffeine ravages my normally cantankerous morning attitude. I have never felt more alive. I feel as if I am floating. I look down, and my feet are no longer touching the ground. The whispers are growing louder, crisper, the birthday knife being held in her hand. I look down at my own. They are interchangeable. Our faces dissolve into one another. I can feel her again, right beside me. My eyes are open now. With my newfound clarity, I can see it, directly ahead of me. Something is growing in the garden.